Today we're going to look at two more methods for solving quadratics. So yesterday we looked at factoring. Today we're going to look at the quadratic formula and the square root method. So quadratic formula is the one you guys probably remember last year. You used it quite often. So it's of the form when you have ax squared plus bx plus c. And I'm not going to sing it now, but I bet you guys sang the quadratic formula song. The opposite of b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac, all over 2a. So if we were to look at an example with this, let's say you were asked to solve y equals 2x squared plus 3x minus 2. So your quadratic formula, x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4 times a times c, all over 2 times a, so 2 times 2. So if we simplify this, negative 3 plus or minus, and this is where we need to simplify what's underneath here. So we have 9 minus minus, so that'd be plus. 4 times 2 is 8 times 2 is 16. So we have the square root of 25 over 4. Well, the square root of 25 is 5. So we have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 20 plus or minus the square root of 25 is 5. And actually, I'm going to write this out twice. So we do it once with a plus. So plus 5 over 4, negative 3 minus 5 over 4. So we have negative 3 plus 5, which is 2. So 2/4, which is 1/2. Negative 3 minus 5, negative 8 divided by 4, and negative 2. So there's our values where it crosses. So let's take a look at one more. Let's say we have y equals 3x squared plus 7x plus 9. Actually, I'm going to make this number a little easier, plus 2x plus 9. So we have x equals the opposite of b plus or minus the square root, b squared minus 4ac. And remember, the divide by everything is over 2 times a. So we have negative 2 plus or minus the square root, and we're going to evaluate what's underneath here. So 2 times 2, so we'd have, let's see, so that is 4 minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 9, let's see, 12 times 10 is 120. So minus a 12, so we'd have 108. So 4 minus 108 is negative 104 divided by 6. And if you guys remember, we can't take the square root of 104. That's also an imaginary, so this means it doesn't cross the x-axis. So plus or minus the square root of 104i divided by 6. And we could leave it just like that. Now the other method is the square root method, and you can use the square root method if the quadratic equation can be written as ax squared equals c. So this is a method where we will not have that bx term. So let's say you had 8x squared plus 6 equals 0. Well, what could we do? We could subtract 6. So we have 8x squared equals negative 6. Divide by 8. So we have x squared equals negative 3/4. Square root, this is one of those I ones again, but when you square root, we have to remember we have plus or minus the square root of 3/4 I, and then we square root the top and bottom, so plus or minus the square root of 3 over 2i. It also works if you have it in parentheses, if you have we should write like x minus, we'll just add w squared equals some number. So if we don't have it in standard form, so if we had something like x minus 4 squared equals 9, We could solve by square roots, so we could square root each side. But if you remember, x minus 4, we'd have to do plus or minus 3. So we have two equations. X minus 4 equals 3 to solve. And then we have to solve x minus 4 equals negative 3. So in this case, we'd have x equals 7. In this case, we'd have x equals 1.